시대는 예달선 다 토마 매반에 진기 잠배만은 요만배 된기 샘두배 시발라랑 마토바 문도다 내내기 람달 메이터 계신이 농지님의 계절의 신이 예주기 예주래 대자 사피는 빈도를 전된다. 토마메베네 딩기 잠에 만음스다. 딩딩 제타를 봐. 토마메베네 딩기 잠에 만음스. 녀몬베 딩기 셈투 셰발라랑 마토비냐. 다 녀몬베 셈투베 다 셰발라랑 마토비지 님부터 중가스다. 셰발라랑 마토비냐. 먼저 단내리기 내리를 따르 미타테스 먼저를 따르 미티카르사 먼저 따르 미티네제 수신수 내리를 따르 미티 tombaniji tawa chetange rashime tawa hote jitembe tambutela lende chushin tare notela jitembe yantare tawasige ne tuni chinji manaba tare tawatela jitene tele yantare tawasige ta tingi tane ches 다 계획 신이기 용진님이 다 계획 계획 남들 진이 신이 네. 되네. 신이 있어야지. 농지 매반이. 심자의 시당. 시에서야지. 다른 심자. 심도 시대 정의를 시에서 년세비 아니 루인이 년세 랑 루인이 와서 와서 남땡이 뒤에서 다 신얘기 농지한테 시에서 샘사회 시에서 어디서다 다치 루잉이레스 니스 대딩이 라라 제남등이 신이한테 semzaren tashi sinentra luingye shingi titaches ani shingi lung titaches gejere nyejugi nye choba situta nyejugi yen choba situ nyejula nyejulu chupati nyejugi yen choba situ nyejugi sembrawa mebara Jurati nijubi nijubasti. Nijube. Dekja situza. Ani dekja seti nijubi nijubi dekja situ tava mungewa. 양조 다디 벨파 샤베는 그렇지 주야지 전에 잡에는 예주기 예는 잡에 아니 예주기 다른 예주기 제발했더니 아니 다방 내가 일단 이용然后내버려 제버리지 수 대저 지단 대자 세주 전파 다방 내버렸지 지루코와다 제발 내손 지수로 양갈 지면서 다 계시니 그래서 그래 내손의 내디를 그것이 내손의 타는 그의 자수를 통해 받으며 통해 계 이과 통해 계다 시다 주다 아니 통해 손다 소바티다리 나루아리바 그와 지구와 당 개방에서 지수를 양간이 좀 여러도나 최신 다 이제 진반남 이제 진반남 여러도나 최신 중에서 네 대남 안에 라라 같은 신도 저 인사 대다 여러도는 신도네 최중 말해봐 내가 신도네 말해봐 내가 지르바 신도 시중 다기 진행도 다 가르치는 다기 다리 된주 하란주 된주 된사도 주기 남이 시베 중세 시베 내가서 대달에 진 소야고 그거를 지하로 추중나 루트야 다기 진행도 그외 동네에 제네 탑에 들어가는 거 그렇죠. 대다지는 바람에
So then yesterday we finished the second step of the 7 cause and effect methods to give rise to bodhicitta. And so then it says here 400.1 where it says when you have experience of that, think of the kindness of all sentient beings. That is think of the kindness of sentient beings. After you have thought about kindness in that way, that is once you have contemplated on the kindness of all other sentient beings, then the next is the way of meditating on repaying kindness of other sentient beings. So for that particular purpose, the text says, meditating on the Lama deity on the crown of one's own head, think as follows. So this is the meditation concerning repaying of kindness of other sentient beings. So therefore, it says, my mothers who have cared for me with kindness from beginnerless time are disturbed by the spirits of afflicting emotions. Therefore, they are insane without self-control. So because negative emotions are like spirit possessions, so therefore we have to think that in that sense, mother sentient beings are like insane without any self-control. So they have no eyes to see the path of high status and definite goodness. So high status and definite goodness is the Tibetan translation of Ngunto and Nelik. So Ngunto has the sense of higher status or higher rebirth. So therefore refers to the eyes to see the path of higher status or higher rebirth refers to the eyes to see the efficacy of moral ethics and then observance of moral ethics.
상황도 당연히 따로 믹스해야 돼.
So the eyes here, the eyes to see the path of the high status, the eyes to see the path of definite goodness. And definite goodness is the translation of Tibetan Nilik, which refers to the state of liberation. So therefore, the first eye, eyes to see the path of high status, refers to the eye of seeing or understanding law of causality and then observing it, which gives rise to high rebirth. The second set of eyes is the eyes to see definite goodness, which is basically freedom from samsara altogether or liberation, which basically refers to the eye of understanding emptiness. So therefore, this is what is meant by here, that when they have no eyes to see the path of high status and definite goodness, that they don't have the understanding of causality as well as understanding of wisdom of emptiness, which respectively lead to the result of gaining rebirth in higher rebirth and achieving the state of liberation from samsara altogether. So therefore, generally, these two views, the view of understanding causality and the view of understanding emptiness, are usually also referred to respectively as the perfect view of the perfect worldly view, and the next one is referred to as the perfect transcendental view. So usually we talk about two views: the view of the world and the view and the transcendental view, in this sense. So then it says they do not have, nor do they have the guide to the blind, which is the spiritual teacher. So they are also divided of spiritual teacher who is like the guide to the blind, and spiritual teacher, the Tibetan term is Hienyin, and Hienyin has again two senses. Xie and Yin has two different senses, which doesn't English. There's no English kind of translation. Xie actually has a connotation of mental intimacy, and then Yin has the sense of physical intimacy. So therefore, both of these intimacy are actually conveyed to the word Hienyi, which is translated as the spiritual teacher. So therefore, that is the kind of way in which we cultivate intimacy with regard to all sentient beings, mentally and physically. As they are disturbed by wrong actions every moment, they are overwhelmed. So overwhelmed means without any control. So this is how you contemplate with respect to the sufferings of mother sentient beings, so that one generates the intent to repay the kindness of mother sentient beings. So then it says, if I neglect those who are walking on the edge of the frightful abyss of civil existence in general, and bad transmigrations in particular, it would be very shameful indeed. So therefore, in order to return their kindness, I will liberate them from the sufferings of civil existence, and then establish them in the bliss of liberation. So therefore, the best way to repay the kindness of mother sentient beings is to engage in spiritual practices, which would then would make you able to liberate them from the suffering of cyclic existence. So therefore, this is the mental motivation that you generate in terms of ultimate way of returning the kindness of mother sentient beings. So therefore it says, I will liberate them from the sufferings of cyclic existence, and then establish them in the bliss of liberation. So please bless me, Lama Deity, to be able to do that.
다치 되네 잠바 공주 맛이 이용 잠바세 잠바 공주네 란디 마도 이도 강 잡아지라 미네스 딜라 사메리 더 칼이 사제기 더 zamyan 민두스 디네 데나 디니 대화다 데레이크다 햄발나 지마르스 다디 지마르 대화다 데레이크다 데네 지마르스 대다 지메바라 말이지 스타 다디 잠바 공부다 잠바 공부다 시다 잠바 공부다 미빠지 데레 엠바 대화 메바 데레 엠베 간사지 다지 페인 미빠 대화다 멘데 심제를 미 넘버디 데이터 채널 지마루 대화다 채널 지마루 넘버디 다 잠베 넘버임 잠바세야디 미빠 근데 질문 미그레 셈페나 상게 미네 잠바 메메 대화다 멘데 간사지 미네 대화다 채널 지마루 세야디 바타 미빠디체 나바테 대화단데 지마로 냠바체 어다테 남바다 어디체
So the next practice is the practice of cultivation of love. After generating the intention to repay the kindness of mother sentient beings, then we go to the cultivation of love. So here the text is next is the way to cultivate love. For that, visualize one who is intimate like your own mother. So the reason why we have to visualize someone who is intimate here is because in terms of defining or understanding what love is, the object of loving thought has to be some intimate person who is deprived of happiness. So therefore, in terms of function, love expresses in that way. That focuses to visualize somebody who is actually deprived of happiness, and not because the focus here is not somebody who is actually suffering, but somebody who is deprived of happiness. And then that is the focus or object. And then in terms of expression, love expresses itself as wanting that intimate person to have those happiness that you see as that person is deprived of. So by this definition, then we said that we cannot actually practice love towards Buddhas and so forth, because they are not deprived of happiness.
진수 공주 때문에 맹아니도 맹아 찍디 니도 그 얘기도 농도 주가 농도 또 다른 나신도 지치들은 뭐 마시고 대번에 가디 지들 지나들에 제 스타디 니도 그 자주를 롱도 추가라서 랑기 니도 시대 니도 그 자주를 pina karasukure rangi mati iya tusu chu jabu shundu kerene purang di rang de chu jamdu yuna yabala zhe rewa je di ubi ana jebanas mati gi achi jibati ge jabro ji ubi ni ana beba jebana poti mati dembe ni tabje yuishindu majeba ani chu jamdu jamuda luyang la sura tiri nenje tena dele tabdube cheme maraba minju daras otina shi peti tije ama senje tham ju kue jaju long du chuba dada ran dembe tabdu diba dada ran dan dembe tabdu tab 조도 예바리 된조그 최초견한테 아니 최대체 아니 최대체를 내가 제 제버가 돼서 란디가 말이야 제가 그래서 그래 연배 조도 유신도 대단하지 않으면서 말하니 지금 기타지나 가장 처음에 상받당스 단디 지듯이 디카레나 단단디 다단디 단지 너무 beton세 지도가 어딜럽디 럽디레스 진수티 단지디 단다 단지디 명모베 명모베니 띵무 동시에디 럽디레스 단된 거디 이 어디 민두가 그다음 내가 이유스 진수 내가 되니 군주가 내가 단된 거디 제 아마 단지디 단지디 신사를 봐 단지디 디나는 누가 dalam Quran juga berdici.
Lebih dari itu.
Lebih kita, lebih kerja. Jualan, jual, lebih ni apa?
So, with respect to the cultivation of the thought of repaying the kindness of mother sentient beings, there are actually two pithy instructions. There are two instructions. One is that I described earlier, of actually seeing all kind mother sentient beings as afflicted by the spirits of afflicted emotions, and then going in and having gone insane because of that, without any self-control and so forth. So that is one way of generating this intense wish to prepare the kind of mother sentient beings, by generating the wish to lead them to the state of liberation. And that instruction that I described earlier actually comes from the tradition of Shantideva. It is taught in his Labdu, or compendium of teachings, or compendium of training, Labdu. So this is taught by Shantideva. There's another instruction, another lineage instruction, which is slightly different. In this second instruction pertaining to generating the wish to repay the kind of mother sentient beings in the ultimate sense of leading them to the state of liberation, one is asked to contemplate in this way, that if one's own mother were to be carried by a gushing river during the summer because of rain and floods and so forth, and you happen to be on the edge of that river, and then your mother is calling your name to rescue her, to help her, and you can hear your mother's cry. And then, if that is the case, and if you have the capacity to rescue her, and instead of rescuing her, you just sat by the edge of the river, singing and dancing and so forth, then the teaching says, how shameless and how unethical and how uncompassionate that person would be. That is yourself. So therefore, first you have to visualize or contemplate like that, and then the instruction says, then you have to think that in fact all sentient beings are like that. All mother sentient beings are like in the ocean of circular existence, suffering in the ocean of circular existence, crying for your help. And in fact, it is the case that you have the capacity to actually rescue them from the ocean of suffering, because you have attained a precious human birth endowed with all the necessary resources and time and so forth, leisure and so forth, to engage in the practice of Dharma, to achieve the state of enlightenment, and then lead all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. So therefore the teaching says that we have to think that if we don't do anything at this time, then we have the capacity to do so, then our condition is very much like that child who just stood singing on the edge of the river while his or her own mother was being carried away by the Gushing River.
잠바디 공성이 되다 대화다 제외 성제지 다다르다 제외 성제다라는 강가 대화다 제외 사제 대화 거리리다 사제 대화 당 준비하리 답에 대화다 제대로 아니 사제 대화지 유기하리 사제 대화지 인좀 이슈지 그냥 내용은 준비하리 어디에서는 요함의 대화디라는 소리야말 탑의 법안 토로서는 민주의 대화 지용이야. 어디에서는 하는 중 대화의 대화다 대화인 거죠. 대화다 대화. 이사 semje 탐제 대화 그리바다 대화단 그래서 미바 semje 탐제샤. 단 남바디 동에 대화된 템지 남바디제. 딱 남바디가 대화된 데는 지마롱입니다. dimba cheme sige chamba cheme le dimba cheme seji ne jawari guruji se manam cheme meba manam ba na jawa dag cheme se asam cheme diga cheme shinde jagi 대다 진이바 저를 진이바 대와던 때 진이가 나만의 진기를 도서 선택 재미에 어시 잘 선택시 재미나 다른 남바들 뒤지 대와던 데는 지마로 대와던 데는 그렇지 대와던 데는 다르게 지긴 있어야 일단 대와던 데는 뒤지 남바 일단 뒤지
So then, in terms of cultivation of love, as I mentioned earlier, the object of this particular thought of loving kindness, is someone who is deprived of happiness, and in that sense, all sentient beings are deprived of happiness. All sentient beings are totally deprived of what we call as uncontaminated happiness, happiness that basically refers to the happiness that one experiences in the domain of liberation, and all sentient beings are deprived of that, and sentient beings do experience occasional what we call as contaminated happiness. But even then, those contaminated happiness are fleeting and momentary and changing. So therefore, in that sense, the object of love becomes all sentient beings. So that is the object. Then in terms of aspect or expression, the expression of love, or love expresses itself in wanting all sentient beings to enjoy happiness that they are deprived of. So that is the expression or aspect of love. And this expression or aspect of love, number, has actually four parts to it, sometimes referred to as the four immeasurables, not to confuse with the usual four immeasurable practices. But here the four aspects are, first of all, the four immeasurables. The first is the immeasurable intent, and so that expresses itself in this particular intention that says, how I wish all sentient beings be freed, or how I wish all sentient beings enjoy genuine happiness. So that is immeasurable intention. Then the next is we don't just leave it at that immeasurable intention, but you actually pray that all sentient beings have happiness. So therefore, then they say, in fact, may all sentient beings have happiness. So that is immeasurable prayer or immeasurable aspiration. Then the third is what we call as immeasurable determination or dedication, and that basically expresses itself in this particular resolution or determination that says, I am going to take responsibility to ensure that all sentient beings enjoy happiness. So that is called immeasurable determination or immeasurable dedication. And then the fourth immeasurable is immeasurable supplication to the Guru deities, and that expresses itself when we actually make supplication to the Guru deity by saying that, bless me so that I be able to give rise to happiness in all sentient beings.
It's Quantico.
Really?
Yeah. What is it?
It's the rain days here, they're testing
Oh.
bombs.
the Magatri Magatri.
Cemeteries here too.
Either that or
Ah. That's it.
It's fireworks, I'm sure.
어디 제다 잠바 중에 채디 잠바 중에 채디 아니 강이 밤에 쓰면 진짜 시민이잖아 이동시 제방이 남아 진짜 딩이 되었던 데는 찜마로 그냥 쉽지 제바디 당이 밤에 심제 간제 지네 디 통화점지 이동시 당이 제시 판대 남아 진지 통네 아니 되었던 데는 찜마로 그냥 같이 그냥 쉽게 되나 아니 잠바 되었던 체인지 잠바
So through this training, the measure for having given rise to love or immeasurable love towards all sentient beings is when there comes a time whether one sees a friend or relative or so-called enemy or a neutral person, when you begin to actually see them as intimate, appealing or pleasant, and precious, that and the wish to actually see them enjoy happiness and well-being comes naturally and spontaneously, then that is the measure of having given rise to loving kindness within oneself.
다시 잠바 군바 뒤치는 도마 단지 장용 공산 공단을 시루지 남군이라 되는데 되나요 그죠 되네 밤마다 되네 잘라는 장야
So the sequence of training, training in immeasurable love is, first of all, we train by visualizing a relative or a friend, and then we focus our visualization by visualizing a neutral person, and then finally we visualize an enemy, and then train in giving rise to love towards that enemy.
아니 잠바 정도 있는데 다도 정함 공부 책이 장세야지 잠바다 인지도 강글로는 구비야지 아니 책이 잔다디 물로주게 다를 때다 띵이지 다게 말이 데미쇼스 어두수 칠레 장고리 시가 칠 도에 동네 가지 이게 다른 민주지 시야르티 나 대나지 되라마 투지지 만주 주에 뒤주 동네 말이 다다다는 민바다 다리 되기 전에 동안 쇼 시야르스 어때 칠딘데 되네 잠바 군들이 칠딘데 그래 동네 탐지 around member shoes. And there were then member shoes. Then I did when I'm at the gym and we do it to Nepal, situated by the Nepal. And Malutata Talimi, but Tagi Tegation at Town stay. Tagi, many left or temptation at Town. To get them the matching, to get them the matching. What did they get? Jamba. 아니 잠바 미남 제도 때문에 잠바 공부에 직진이라 지 어서지 두수한 건 직진에 좀 그야지
So, in terms of training in loving kindness, and in terms of training in compassion, as well, it is said that we should train in these qualities by memorizing powerful verses or lines that teach something about loving kindness and compassion. And then by memorizing these lines and verses, to recite them at all times, whether one is walking or talking to somebody or eating, that at all times to remind these verses or recite them loudly, and then through this way one should train in loving kindness, compassion as a very skillful means or powerful methods of training in these qualities of kindness and compassion. So therefore verses like what is actually mentioned in Shantideva's Bodhisattva's Way of Life, where he prays that may the suffering of all sentient beings befall may I be able to actually suffer the suffering of sentient beings. And very much like that, the verses in Guru Puja, where there's a prayer that says, O venerable lamas, bless me. so that I be able to take upon myself the suffering and karmic obscuration of all sentient beings, and that I be able to dedicate all my happiness and well-being to other sentient beings, and by virtue of that, may all sentient beings enjoy happiness. So these kind of verses and lines, and we should actually memorize them and recite them at all times.
genetically 가지 벤지기 숨는지 되게 숨는니까서 되나 대화 그는 당스럽게 펜데는 그 강하셔스 되나 대화 그는 당스 되나 이나 대화 초숨 펜데는 그 강하셔스 되나 동지 동행 쿠르 동행 자주 잼바쇼스 어디 술래네 랑라 지부를 주중서나 기나 대화 초수노스 기부 중에 대화 초파 승제 탕제 땅 아니 펜데나가 강쇼스 이제 땡기 감 탕제도 네 펜데 강쇼스 이제 도나 군지 동네 쿠르스 랑라 강에치 태서는 군지 동네 그쳐버쇼스 동네 자주 겜버쇼 네 그쳐네 아니 그거나 동네 승제 탐제로 동네 매봐 동네 자주 겜버쇼스 어디 그거는 어디
And for example, there's one powerful verse by which is by scholar named Kashmiri Pandita, Kaji Penjin, Kashmiri Pandit, where he says, Kashmiri Penjin, Kaji Pandit, So, we love the translation of the word Kaji Pandita. Kaji literally means like Muslim Pandita. But Tibetans use this word to refer to both Muslims as well as to Kashmir area where the Muslims are. So we have a lot of Kashmir Pandits from that area. But it sounds funny because it's like Muslim Pandit. The verse the verse says that if one experiences happiness, then if I experience happiness, then I'm going to offer this as offerings or offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and by virtue of that, may happiness pervade the extent of space, may happiness fill the extent of space. If I experience suffering, then may I be able to bear the suffering of all sentient beings and then dry out the ocean of suffering. So this is a verse by that particular master.
대화 초승을 써야 돼. 상계 찬스는
So,
이제 상계 상제는 아니 펜드는 거. 동네 공기 동네 크루스. 상제 파다 디기가 좋으네. 상제 나게 가져가.
So actually, the when this particular verse says, "When I experience happiness, may I," it says, may I dedicate it to the congregation, which not refers to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, but so here relates to the mass of all sentient beings. So may I be able to dedicate all my happiness to all sentient beings, and through this way may happiness prevail and fill the extent of space. And when I actually suffer, may I be able to suffer the suffering of all sentient beings, and bear the suffering of all sentient beings, and through this way may I be able to dry out the samsara of suffering, the ocean of suffering.
다디 어디 전원 탐지도 지기 찬스야 되게 지 상부도 등기 제디 남주 어디 민남디 견지 민남 견지 점점리에 지 상부도 로라네 되는 지리야 자주
So the technique teaches us to, of course, engage in contemplation and meditation during the actual session, and during the in-between sessions, then recite these powerful verses and lines that induces kindness and compassion.
다디 제 잠바 군대는 사진 네 안데 사제기 되었다면 무슨 사제기 되었대 알아주고 제수나 아니 칼라지 사인지 되었지 알아 어디를 사제기 되었어 디코 되었어야 되어랑 좀 많이 제 가르스는 제베 동네지 세워 인사 아니 대냠지 차와です제베 동네디 동대를 내려들 세지 사인지 그 대냠지 차야지 그런 원에 되었을 게 말이지 내가 동네 치료주가 되었다면 제베 동네디 세인데 좀 디네도 들지 대냠지 차야です야구 세디 사사인도 좀 야상이면도 그렇지 야구 걸지 차야 야지 그거 메테버도 메테버도 되는 것도가 야구 동네 뭐 그렇지 어째서 사제기 되었어야 되지 지다 되어라 잠깐만 지다 되어 있어 이 내가 저기 어디 세 되어라 잠깐만 이제 되어라 잠깐만 있어야 돼 그냥 디네도 되어라 지리 계진이 걸 동네 뭐 그렇게 해라 대화를 안 되는 것에 대해 동네 뭐 그것도 내버렸지 답에 되었어 사실이 되었으면 되지
So here it mentioned two types of happiness, contaminated and uncontaminated happiness, and
사실이 되었다는 나도 대화를 못해야 기다려 동네도 그러네 플러스 내가 대화를 친구야
so contaminated happiness refers to, for example, when one is hungry, when we eat something at that time, when we eat something, it gives rise to some sense of satisfaction, or so that is referred to as contaminated happiness. So contaminated happiness is not genuine or authentic happiness. It simply refers to elimination of the suffering. So the suffering, when suffering of hunger is eliminated, it is simply referred to as happiness, but it is not from its own side a genuine or true happiness. It simply refers to the absence of suffering. So the absence or elimination of suffering is referred to as happiness. So even though it is generally a kind of happiness, this is not actually true or authentic happiness. So therefore it is called contaminated happiness. So the nature of contaminated happiness is such that that in fact it can give rise to suffering. So for example, when we are hungry, we eat something, it gives rise to some sense of happiness. But then that the same factor of eating food can give rise to some others, lead to some other suffering. It can give rise to some sort of digestive problem or some sort of physical pain, or it can give rise to aversion towards food, So these are all kind of suffering. So therefore, contaminated happiness by definition not only refers to an absence of suffering, but it can induce other forms of suffering as well. So that's why it's called contaminated.
대화식 되네. 대배 동동 제장 지망의 소리 동행이 교지다. 세대 디기를 진되네. 진배 배주 시부지 제 이제는 배강의 친구 제네. 배강으로 진의 지명의 소리 교지스. 신들을 양 내리신 세대야 세대야 당뇨만 그걸 갈래만 비켜버리스. 내신 두배 동아랬지만 마도 양답에 더 때문에 민두스 어디에서 세대를 강해져야지. 하지만 짐에 디기 아이들은 무슨 생기기 디기를 단단히 지내겠지. 아니 진들이 강해져. 지말은 예수도는 어딘데 집행을 주든지 지레샤스 때 지망의 숨이 그 동행이 교지 생들의 내신 두배 동화가 제맘마도 야답에 더 되는 민도 걔나 띵이 되어다 되어있거든. 제가 지금 대화다 되어있거든 되었지만 단대 두수 알아주고 대외교력이 아마리 천득이 뒤지기 대외교 심재능이 아니 친구당 수준이 좀 두수가 어다 두수 지기 치매 아니 대화다 대외교 세대 대외교 다지단 상바상부지 얘네 상바상부지 이끄는 랑배 아니 나비 좋아도 대외교의 대외교 대화다 대외교든 그렇지 대화다 대외교다 대화다 샤오스 어디지
So then,
대화 자우 대다 지내봐가 말이지 어디지
so then we continue on this contemplation or training to give rise to love. Where it says they do not have even mere contaminated happiness. This which they exaggerate now as being happiness will become suffering. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, was the definition of contaminated suffering. Deriving some happiness, they make an all-out effort physically and mentally, but they are creating the cause of the suffering of bad transmigrations in their next life. So in this life as well, they are tired and troubled. Therefore, they never have real happiness, but only create misery. So then, after that, we have the four immeasurables, so four aspects of the expression of love, compassion, or expression of love, as I mentioned earlier. So therefore, the first is, therefore, how nice it would be if this person had happiness and the causes of happiness. So which is the immeasurable intention. May they all have happiness and the causes of happiness, which is the immeasurable aspiration. I'll provide them with happiness and the causes, which is the immeasurable dedication and resolution. And then please bless me, Dhamma Deji, to be able to able me to do that, and so on, which is the immeasurable supplication.
No, didn't tell you what to ban a palo so better. Can you pass? Didn't Parmala, Netala, Tarsinja Tangela. And Simja. And it Tar Simja Tamjela, Simja Tamjela Chipita. Rangi Pamani Tabu to Simja Tamja Jada. I'm a Simja Tamja, some unintelligent community. That's Simja Tamjela.
So then it says, once you have experience of that, then you change your focus, then take as your object. First, close persons such as your father, then neutral beings, then your enemies, and then finally all sentient beings, and meditate as before. So therefore this is basically the same practice but changing the focus of visualization.
인지 공부는 다 인지 공부. 주라마라 공신대 간에 정말을 시험봐서 수행신배 루트를 동행이 냠탑에 로아나 공스 아버지 인지 공부 동행 인지 들어서는 강에 태베스 이제 미고르가 그때 동해한테 동해한테 집에서 이제 미국에 남바 미국에 동해한테 마트에서 이제 동해 제사들 때는 수신데 동해도 냠타고 좋아서 어디 정말 진짜 냠타고 좋아하는 냠타도 거의 선배 수이시면서 내게 나르시면 근데 좀 뭔가 여러 어떠서 다때네 남바티 동네도 되는 지마로 선배 남바스 사람이네 야라 남 다때 단데티 야라 남지 장미 바바니 스타디 되다도 바기 루시치티 가는 야라는 징스 장미 바바니 셴벨라 바코버 주게 소자 소르 바바니 무슨 시 미셴베 미셴베 동네 시리 다시 동네기 냠타베 주선 내가 딩이 동네다 동네기 주다 탐제도 되는 지마롱 시야디다 두버디 동네다 동네기 주다 저를 주지 면은 이제 동네다 동네기 주다 좌우세 하상대 대다 진행하는 말에 챙기는 수행될 체내지 어다 대체 시소당 내가 유학점 받는 인디기 콜라 매매도 얘는 자손에 다 대가 치웠다 인디기 콜라 매매도 줘봤다 수제다 최봉배다 로다제 심지어다 최신 이게 완전히 제발라 인빈으로 집에 다 제발 집에 로아는 하면 공부스 뒤에는 넘버 2에서 나다 대다기 제주인데 나 되잖아 신들이양 대화는 제주의 그랑기 재단 데레이션스 이내양 그랑기 대화는 데레 대화는 심하다 등에 손비껴 태동이 데리께는 유진 슈트라베 동민나서 누구 두루스 어다 지행에 손비끼리 시에처럼 대나 대다기 대다 동에도 동력이 좋다는 것도 재밌지만 동에도 동력이 좋다 탐제도 제와 교르지 동에도 동력이 좋다 탐제도 제와 대다 지내고 나면 시에서 대다를 명확한 바나 아니 말았어라 마소라 말았어베 얘는 근도 세워라 네 딩이 시디 뱀베 동동 장이 수직 지네 다디 미네 이니스 다 진디기 파마 진디 베베 동동기 장이기 수직 지시네 진디리야 베베 동동기 급에 자다니스 초지순 아니 동력이 좋다 이거를 통해서 장이들 자다니기는 조례를 손에 드는 동네 쟤는 내 동네 mamma 동네 잘라 잡아지 아니 야마 니를 잡아 잘라 세단 잘라 미베 세단이 디원기 니가는 제게 같은 교회 동네다 동네가 교회 동네 대회 그 분석이 아니고 천대야 저항님의 제네 이걸로 많이 천대야 천디기 저항장에 고큰 이걸로 많이 심하다 통해서 유린 수도 나도 문구가 또 내가 대다라 동네도 동네 같은 거 좀 저왔다고 왔다 또 다들만 어땠어
So then the next is the practice of compassion. 4012. It says, when you have experience of that, then take as your object. Next is the way to cultivate compassion. So then is it meditating on the Lama Didi on the crown of your head. First meditate on transmigrators who are tormented by miseries such as sheep who are being slaughtered by a butcher. So therefore the first is the in the beginning is the general cultivation of compassion, and then we go to the specific by visualizing a specific individual like relatives and friends and enemies and so forth. So therefore, first of all, the definition of compassion is different from that of love. So there is difference in terms of object or focus, and then there's different in terms of its aspect or its expression. So the object of compassion is sentient beings who are suffering, which is not the case with love. With respect to love, the object is sentient beings who are deprived of happiness. So the object of compassion is sentient beings who are suffering. And then the aspect of compassion or expression of compassion is that compassion expresses itself in wanting sentient beings be freed from their suffering. So therefore, expression or aspect is wanting sentient beings being freed of their suffering or gaining freedom from different types of sufferings. So, having said that, then in the beginning, we meditate on compassion generally by visualizing all sentient beings. So therefore, it says the way to do that is as follows: visualize their forms in front of you, and think about how they are being tormented by misery. Their limbs are bound, and the skin on their chest is split open. As the Buddha's hand reaches inside, they understand directly that they are about to die. So remember to say this is really the method of slaughter in Tibet. This is how they slaughter animals. And they understand directly that they're about to die. They then look at the Buddha's face with eyes rolling in terror. So this is the kind of creative visualization that you cultivate, but you apply this on sentient beings like they are suffering similar fate. And then think, how nice if they were free from suffering and all the causes of suffering, which is the immeasurable intention. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, which is immeasurable aspiration or prayer. I will free them from suffering and all its causes of suffering, which is immeasurable dedication. And then please bless me, Lama Didi, to be able to do that, which is immeasurable supplication. So then it says, when you experience that, then take as your object of observation or transmigrators who harm sentient beings, eagerly creating a variety of non-virtuous actions and wrongdoing who hold wrong views, who abandon the teachings, who practice corrupt ethics, or heedlessly use the wealth of the Sangha. So therefore these are in degrees of, in terms of more heavier karma. Then the way to think is as follows: visualize their forms in front of you and think. If these beings do such things now, they will not happen. They will not have happiness even in this life. Immediately after death, there is no doubt that they will be reborn in bad transmigrations. When they are born there, they will necessarily experience a variety of strong miseries for a long time. Therefore, how nice if they were free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be free from the suffering and the causes of suffering. I will free them from suffering and the causes of suffering, and then please bless me, Lama Gigi, to be able to do that. Which is basically again the four, immeasurables, four aspects of this expression of compassion. Then it says, when you have experienced that, then visualize before you. So the general visualization is done. Then you visualize before you somebody who is close as your mother, and then think in this way: these persons have been making an all-out effort, physically and mentally, in this life to provide for their friends and guard against their enemies. Having been tormented by both the sufferings of change and the suffering of suffering, they have not had even the slightest occasion of happiness. In this life as well as they are busy doing wrong actions and have not produced a virtuous mind. Immediately after that, they will be reborn in bad transmigrations, and then you will have to experience a variety of strong miseries for a long time. Therefore, how nice if they were free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they be free from the sufferings and causes of suffering. I will free them from suffering and causes of suffering, and bless me, Lama Gigi, to be able to do that. Again, the four expressions of immeasurable aspects. Then it says, when you have experienced that, then you change your focus by first of all visualizing little beings, then enemies, and finally all sentient beings.
Tene chadang thar simje thamje da nga shikum rata teche.
Not to do so much.
Did you? Yes, tene tandate chambate niji kunda ne chirinji on the cherry. Chidang chinani Tomar brand Zashirim, Tene Pamal, Tene Talami, Tene Churches in Jamus. That to nature that tended to nature.
So there are two sequences with respect to meditations or contemplations on giving rise to compassion. One is basically first of all visualizing one's intimate, close friends and relatives, like one's mother and so forth, followed by neutral beings, followed by enemies, and then visualizing all sentient beings. That is one sequence. The other sequence is to visualize sentient beings in degrees of their suffering. So you visualize sentient beings who have or experiencing more intense suffering, and then those who are having less suffering. So that's one sequence that you visualize.
Da ninji chimbu kongde pengi di chuyang daga dube dole di chungji da kada sungre. Sangi ji chudang di chudang. Chungde di shindu. Janju simba, simba chimbu, andu chiba. Sangi ji chudang di chudang. Ninji chimbu ni sangi tam jungden desu duwa. Ninji chimbu ni sangi di chue tamje janju senpa tamja diku chiba rasu. Jungden de peiki na. janju senpa, janju senpe chui chik rabdu sungshin, rabdu tokar gina, sangye ki chui tangde, di lakdi tu chiba lao sos. Chui chibu di gangshi na gida di niji chenpo uros. Chasa, janju senpa di chui chik rabdu sung, rabdu tokar gina, sangye ki chui tangde, lakdi tu china, chiba lao sos, lakdi tu 라베티 도용 그래. 최지부터 가르에서는 대다디 인지 침부다. 인지 침부 연결하는 되게. 들린 것 같아서는 아니 최담제 데미트 얘기 있다. 강의 거지.
So with respect to the benefit of compassion, well, the Buddha's mentioned in one of the sutras called the Sutra of Perfect Gathering of Dharma, where the Buddha mentioned that, O Bodhisattvas, there is one Dharma that if one is able to realize, it would be like gathering all dharmas in the palms of one's own hand. And what is that dharma? Bodhisattvas, that dharma is nothing but great compassion. So this is what Buddha says, is that if one is able to give rise to great compassion, then by virtue of that, one is able to actually gain realization of all dharmas, very much like gathering all dharma in the palms of one's own hand.
되니 다다 잠바 공배 배경들에 상계 좀 되기 도지 된거 뒤지 분 탐지 잠배 생들이 냐바션 좀 인스지 그래서 일단 아니 뒤지 가서 그래 밑에 좀 말았다 잠바도 치스 좀 말에 잠바도 치스 재산 장배 장바 장배권에 두었지 여기 때간 그 장배권에 두었지 상계 좀 되게 좀 장바 공부를 봐 어디 예산 다 장바 처음에 공 장바 공부 표현들이 너무 이해했다.
So that also applies to love. The benefit of love is also extensive like that. It is in fact said that when the Buddha was meditating under the Bodhi tree and he was attacked by a host of maras or demonic negative forces, it is said that he was able to subdue all of them with a single meditation on loving kindness. So by dwelling on a samadhi of loving kindness for a single moment, the Buddha was able to eliminate or destroy or subdue all the hosts of demons. So therefore, this is actually seen as as a powerful benefit of meditating on love.
다들 셴야 다 인지 커뮤니티 셴야 마센제는 커뮤니티네 단디 마야나 제 팬다 대화 체면도 인노바당 기내 체면도 옆이야 쳔바다 다디 인지 금백가서 인지야 기능들이야 신제 탐제 응알기 라나 진경수 마야야 지지 네 마제베든 진 팬바 체면도 내가 체면도 겹주 양양선 이 맛에 관계 타바다 탐지 김들 남들부터 제가요 신제 디달했더니 중국이 신도 진짜 토마메베 뒤기 나도긴 내로 뭔데 코라이야 다디 어딘지 야삼을 땅 인지 국민지 인지 this jazz 토마메베 같이 진짜 또 찍지 야 동네가 나지 야 토마미를 뛰는 랑도리는 몽을 참 거지 분에 지라고 하는 사람의 원형 재미 그에 들어 참 대화를 참 도와주는 선비는 내가시 타바다 단지기는 대화 대기한 대외주 대외주 개원이 좀 세죠 좀시 동해 면도자 동해 기미가 뽕시 신도다 나네 정기 나도 그러고 신도다 대화돼 버리지 나네는 동의기 장장 미국의 장장이 주비하고 쳐서 대화도 줘야 대화도 대대비 주에 신도 소재 신은 그보다 어떤 데 간거 지혜로 랑 대화도 되지 어두수 대화돼 버리지 나네까지 돼 가와리 동의기 주장 장장 주고 됐어 어떤 데 그냥 상
So then the instruction says that if then one finds difficult to induce compassion towards all sentient beings, then one should again reflect on remembering the kindness of mother sentient beings. So in this way, then one then contemplate on how sentient beings have been one's mothers in many lifetimes, and how they have been kind to one in numerous ways during those numberless lifetimes, as mothers, as friends, and so forth. And then also reflect on their kindness, of the fact that, in fact, one's own state of enlightenment and liberation, including the realizations on the path towards enlightenment, are dependent on there being sentient beings. So therefore it is because of sentient beings that one is able to actually train on the path towards enlightenment. It is because of sentient beings that one actually finally attains the state of enlightenment. So therefore these are kindness of other sentient beings. And so then you reflect on kindness of other sentient beings, and then again meditate on how they are deprived of many happiness and how they suffer from many sufferings, even though they want happiness, they give rise to causes of suffering, how they are always engage in this contradiction, or even though they want happiness, they engage in actions that give rise to suffering and so forth. So therefore, when you combine remembering the kindness of mother sentient beings and then how they actually suffer, then this helps us to induce compassion.
야, 다다지 장바꾼의 배우님은 수단이수. 근데 뒤뒤 장배 그 남자를 숨으시지. 덤바기 아니 뒤뒤 대중 인도 전바 천재당 이래지 전에 대중도 내고 장배 뒤에 남자시지. 아 정나베 내들 하루 점발라 장발을 하베 장나베 바른 점발라 장발을 하베 디 온도기 초이스 시 온도들의 초를 장발이 아니 장발이 보고는 그래서 신분도 온도도 제사 온도기 초이잖아 인스 사이즈 벤지기 잠부 잠바투 주의도 신스 잠부 전에 아니 잠부 뒤투리스 주리도 뒤투리스 벤지 전에 주주 순계 가세 짐발레 주주 순주세디 디 지내제 짐발레 디 나는 세주니 이마제리 신도베 센제파드네 말이지니야 니 짐발레 니 잠바지 연점 건바디 페이치스 제다디 주주 순계 가세다세 잠바시베 민트가 잠기 인구 대상 소하다 야 다디제 tani lingji le jamba gombe tele hong jegur juya dongsum gi simje le jamba gombe tele hong changbar jiwa kaje ge simje tamje le jamba gombe jiten gi jamne sangge to hengi sesanta 다 동수의 심지 탐지를 장부 공수는 산지 주고 저게 팽이 시다 장부 세디 장부 팽이 누가 아이제 그 심지 탐지 장부 공수 지진 장내 생겼다 상배 내시 어디지 상배 내시가 성주 참이 시세 주바 가와 참이 민지 참이 그 장배내 시시기 재미시라 장배내 시세 장배들이 라 장배지다 아니 이제 성결이 지어지니 장배시가 타발을 지주니 있으면 장배시가 주에 그거 시가 장배시가 타발을 지주니 나를 린다 틈에 용해순기 청리 리바 시기 장배 미남 장바시바 체메바니 그에 체메 아야
So the benefits of meditating on love is described in this way. First of all, the Buddha, when he subdued the horse of negative forces or demonic forces, it is said that he did not actually use magic, black magic, or he did not use any weapons, but he subdued them through the power of meditating on love or loving kindness. So you usually say that by dwelling on the samadhi of loving kindness, the Buddha was able to destroy or subdue the hordes of demonic forces. So this is usually giving us one benefit of engaging or practicing love. And then Kadamba Master Geshe Chengawa says that whether one wants to subdue one's enemies or whether one wants to be able to have influence over others, the most powerful method is to give rise to loving kindness. Likewise, Sajja Pandita mentions that it is love that can actually subdue those who are gentle, and it is also love that is able to subdue those who are violent as well. And then in Ratnavali, Nagarjuna, precious garland, Nagarjuna mentions that if one were to give food to all sentient beings on a daily basis, engage in generosity, that is, more beneficial than that is actually dwelling on loving thought for a moment. And likewise, it is said that that in fact, even when hears the word love, it has the power to bring calm and peace and tranquility. Then it is also mentioned that by meditating on love towards beings in one planet, it has the capacity or the power to give rise to rebirth as a monarch or king over that one planet. And one actually meditates on love extending to all sentient beings in the 3,000 in the three realms. then it is said that, you know, by virtue of that, one is able to give rise, one is able to take rebirth as a Brahma. Brahma, having control over these three realms. And if one meditate on love extending to all sentient beings, then one achieves the state of complete perfect Buddhahood. And then the second question was, if you have the ability to rescue someone, but you don't do out of laziness or self-grasping, is that a non-virtuous action? So Rinpoche said that would be a non-virtuous action, because that would be an occasion of lack of compassion that drives laziness or whatever it may be.
다음에 단지 참 듣고 하지. 그냥 이제 맞습니다. 다 맞습니다. 나선 그런 것 같은데 더 말할 수도 있잖아요. 다들 민지제 맛이 진지 진수 이용 참바스 근데 민지제 학생스 이 영웅 참바티 근데면 중요하다 중에 대화다 텐도 참바티 무슨이야 그걸 민지다 보니까 발로 지금 영화트는 그거 이거서 그래서 중에다 텐도스 중에다 텐도이나 대화다 텐도 슈를 열어봐 대화다 텐도이나 중에다 텐도 슈를 열어봐 이산다 영웅이 참바스 아니 민지 학생세티 네 참바 근데면 중기 참바티 영웅이 참바시 이 슈를 민지제 학생세 다들 마셔인도 가슴 인지 시에서는 동네들 텐도 니 대화다 텐도 인지 티셔츠 참바 티셔츠를 입어 되니 동네들 텐도 인지 티셔츠 다 동네 탐지 다기 천대야 주라 시스템 텐션 저는 생각 좀 이해도 못시는 다다는 넥스 이 말아
이 정신스키가 링에있나?
인지 공중에 이슬람을 하시 공신에 스티치 신처럼
잠시만.
다드네 다드네 내가 요 템바나 신도 동네다 동네리 교다 저걸 있지 동네다
어디?
저 다지나가는 시소다 la nyua tumba na mala soba tapina gyure tumuni tere surusi sende yang jawane betene tunge da tunge tamje da tuwa juji tunge da tunge tamje da tuwa juji tunge da tunge tamje da tuwa juji da chine ba chana mene che tene tetar chambata ninji wante tetar chambata ninji la yi june ne watumba na hasam kunju ne jiwa lama la kumshi benga ne tetar samti tunghe gi nashi tere pungbe simje te tunghe ta tunghe gi jutam chane jawa shi dagi cha jawa ta tunghe jutam chewa shi dagi cha kyabara ma simje tam jini kajan ta jawa pangde yanda ba tsuba sanji jukuman shi dagi jawa teta jine bala dati re ta nyingji ta chamba ta nyingji niwa teta re ne minam ticha ta rasam ke kapsu tunge da kuta chawa ta chawa ta kicha yawa da tunge ta kicha usi ta tine lota chewa tere chamba ta nyingji kapsu tunge da kuta chawa chuchi isi tewa da tere kuta tembar chuchi isi dumbata tende chewa ta rasam kapsu ta kicha usi 사상 그래서 다음 저스 대나치 말은 된걸 주체스 된게 매워지 근데 다기 저기 안에 타지 어디서 사상 그래서 다 미는 미가 찍도 지네 그것도 제가 있어 내가 성식을 하면서 봤어요 이 니랑에 하프리 니랑에 인지 친구 있었어 야리디 심지기 동네에서야 그때 어떻게 쿨도 항상 지내고 있어.
So then with respect to the 7 causes and effect method of giving rise to bodhicitta, we concluded the first one, which is seeing all sentient beings as one's mothers, then remembering the second one, remembering the kindness of mothers, third one is repaying the kindness of mothers and beings, then the practice of love and practice of compassion, and now the next one, the 6th one, is what is referred to as exceptional mind, or aksam in Tibetan, which basically means dedication or dedicated mind or resolution, or exceptional mind. And so this basically is practiced as this is mentioned here, in such a way that during this practice we combine the practice of love and compassion in one meditation. But the difference is now at this level, we are no longer living compassion and kindness, compassion and love at the level of intention. It is no longer a level of immeasurable intention, but rather we transform that intention, intensify that, so that an exceptional mind is generated, an exceptional mind that shoulders the responsibility of ensuring that all sentient beings gain freedom from suffering, and then enjoy well-being and happiness. So therefore this is the practice of actually making a personal resolution, or shouldering responsibility, as opposed to just leaving it at the level of intention and motivation. So therefore this is called exceptional mind, because it is said that superior mind or exceptional mind, laksam, because this practice is something that is superior as compared to arhats or belonging to the Hinayana kind of practitioners of hearers and solitary realizers. Because it is said that even the arhats, they have great compassion, but what they don't have is this superior mind or exceptional mind that leads them to making this personal resolve to carry or to shoulder responsibility, to train, so that one can actually liberate sentient beings from their state of suffering and give rise to well-being and happiness. So therefore, here it reads here in the text, the way to do that is as follows. Meditating on the Lama deity on the crown of your head, think as follows. I'll free from suffering and the cause of suffering all sentient beings who are bereft of happiness and tortured by misery. I will join them with happiness and the causes of happiness. In particular, I will have all sentient beings, my mothers, to attain the highest state of a completely perfect Buddhahood, which is the abandonment of the two obstructions, together with their predisposing latencies. Please bless me, Lama deity, to be able to do that.
이때도 생기죠. 그것도 왜 다른 생기지 심지어 좀 생기고 그렇죠. 다시 전주고 있으면 그래서
So then the next practice, the seventh practice, which is basically the result. So the seven courses, in fact, the six other courses, and the result is the seventh practice, which is the generation of bodhicitta, or altruistic intention to lead all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. So for this particular purpose, then you meditate in this way. The text says, meditating on the Lama deity on top of your crown, think as follows. Well, if someone would ask, do you have the ability to establish all sentient beings in the high state of a completely perfect Buddha? So therefore, this question is question that one asks oneself in response to your earlier resolution that said that I'm going to free all sentient beings from this sort of suffering. So even though you resolved like that, then your next logical question is, do I have the ability to do so? And so then the answer to that is, at present I cannot establish even a single sentient being in the high state of a complete perfect Buddhahood. Furthermore, although I attain the high state of either of the two four destroyers, that is arhats, of the solitary realizers and hearers, I could provide only for the well-being of a few sentient beings, but I would not have the ability to establish all sentient beings in the high state of completely perfect Buddhahood. So therefore, one reasons that even one gains the state of arhathood, one does not have the potential to lead all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment. Then who has such ability? A perfectly complete or a completely perfect Buddha has it. Buddhas are adorned by major and minor physical qualities of their body. The qualities of their speech is their ability to in each instant of their voice, which has 60 aspects, to give that teaching effortlessly to all sentient beings, each in their own language. The good qualities of their mind is their direct realization of all conventional and ultimate phenomena, and their great compassion for all sentient beings, which is like a mother's loving kindness for only child. So therefore, the first section is about the Buddha's qualities. But even if a Buddha has all of these qualities of body, speech, and mind, if the Buddha does not have great compassion that extends indiscriminately towards all sentient beings, then the Buddha cannot benefit sentient beings. So therefore, here the next is the second quality, the quality of having indiscriminate great compassion that extends to all sentient beings. And so here in the text it says, their great compassion for all sentient beings, which is like a mother's loving kindness for all child, because they apply their compassion without discrimination. So this is also important quality, indiscriminate compassion, so to speak. They do not miss for even a moment the time to tame. Then the next quality is the quality of enlightened activity. It says, the enlightened influence is effortless and spontaneous. So therefore what it means is that when the time comes, when the time arrives, then the ability for enlightened beings to tame and subdue beings and lead them to the state of liberation is effortless and spontaneous. To such an extent there, it says, even a single emanation of light from their body, speech and mind, they are able to establish in the high state of omniscience an immeasurable number of sentient beings. So this last section describes Buddha's qualities of enlightened qualities of activity. So therefore, by remembering that now only the Buddha has the ability to do so, to lead all sentient beings to the state of enlightenment, then one generates the intention to get the state of enlightenment so that one can help other sentient beings.
니바니스 다 다시님지 단주도 지다 잡아서 튼점스 니바 튼점스 지다 잡아도 장주 장바다 있는 장주가 생긴 남샷된데 송로 로야들이 송로 건데 잡아를 따도 지야지 튼점을 뒤집으면 다디
So then, here it says what to do in between meditative sessions after the generation of bodhicitta. Then it says during the in-between sessions one should read and contemplate on scriptures or teachings that teach loving kindness, compassion, and then bodhicitta or altruistic intention.
다디 니바디 다시년 지구는 전부선 중주다. 이번에 응원도 승제 탐제라 생명대 땅인당 다디 땅인데 가장 친사인가 그냥 마시지 진진이지 진지숨 응원도 간 다디 값수 진진디데 근데 내가 등급권에 생기가 뒤에 진지디 대배 진지 생제는 진지 이제 그렇구나. 데려다 진지 개발했어. 진지주디 아니 그래서 그래. 대배 진지 뒤땡도 아니 다다 진지주 마음 버리 진지주 제다 대마오 순간이 아니 진지주 이해.
So then we go to the second method of generating bodhicitta, which is the method of exchanging oneself with others. So the title says the way of developing the altruistic intention or bodhicitta to become enlightened through equalizing and exchanging oneself with others.
다디 갈레스레스나 데 강기 그지 되나요 심제는 바바다 볼이 죽었다 세계는 심제는 시야다 엄마라 소다 진것이 돈이야 심제라 대고 술김지 손에야 심제라 심제기 손에 죽었어 심제라 대고 자민인지 군내야 유심제라 들어서 근데 다 이제 심제를 때문에 토마토 들어서 유심기 진진그스 얘는 심제 와다 유심기 진진 심제는 그냥 응음의 경험만 남서 tempat 교환들이 양 tempat 간지 강구로 심제를 때문에 준비해봐. 네, 지금 산지 주고만 도와라 했다. 네, 지금 땅물이 수준 성물이 수화 공물이 네, 잠바댕이지 공물이 어떤 때문에 시전에 어떤 수간가 심제를 때문에 깊이 쳐서 산지 주고만이 네, 이게 산지 주고만 봐도 토야디 심제기 같은 때는 또 어디에서 두순게 진진했지.
So therefore, first it says meditate on equanimity, which is even-mindedness towards all sentient beings. So therefore, the way to meditate on equanimity was described as earlier within the context of seven cause and effect method. And then on top of that, one meditate on equanimity, on the recognition that all sentient beings have been one's mother, and then followed by the remembrance of the kindness of the mother sentient beings. So there's a difference between this tradition and the tradition of seven causes and effect tradition in terms of remembering, or the practice of remembering the kindness of mother sentient beings. In the seven courses in the Vedic tradition, remembrance of kindness is limited to remembering the kindness of Mother sentient beings in previous lifetimes, in the past lifetimes. But here, in the context of exchanging oneself with others, remembering the kindness of Mother sentient beings is within the context of all the three times, in the past, in the present, and the future. By engaging in this analysis or contemplation, where with respect to our clothing, whether in the past, present, or future, we have to depend on animals' skins and so forth. We depend on other sentient beings for food, for milk, and so forth. And with respect to giving rise to higher spiritual practices through the practice of six perfections like morality, generosity, and so forth, we also can practice these things only because of there being sentient beings or independence on sentient beings. So, for example, with respect to observance of morality, without sentient beings we cannot observe morality. Without sentient beings we cannot engage in the practice of generosity. Without sentient beings we cannot engage in the practice of loving kindness and compassion and so forth. So therefore, in fact, all the spiritual qualities of the present and that one might actually achieve in the future, including in the culmination of gaining the state of enlightenment, one has to depend on other sentient beings. So therefore, in this way, the remembrance of kindness in this tradition is not just limited to remembering the kindness of other sentient beings in the past lifetimes, but also in all three times like this. So therefore, in recognition of the importance of sentient beings to achieving state of enlightenment, Shantideva mentions two types of merit field. The merit field containing or consisting of enlightened beings, and merit field consisting of sentient beings, which are equally important, because when we talk about merit field as field or source of accumulation of merit, sentient beings are equally important, as I mentioned earlier, to engage in the practice of accumulation of merit through practice of, for example, generosity or practice of loving kindness and so forth. Without there being the merit field of sentient beings, we cannot accumulate these merits through practice of generosity, compassion, and so forth.
This is the Simje Guje Matoba Sangi Kibe Tapsi means Simje Gua Majena Sangi Kibe Tapsi means Simje Gua Chibala Simje Guje Change to go, but that's just what the Simje Guje Matoba Sangi Kibe Tapsi means Simje Gubaje and Simje Chambata in the Sangi Fugu. The Majena, Simje Goa Majena, Sangi give it to me. Sangi Ticaresana, Tampo 2 give it, Simje going to give it to Maji going to pay Gajet Tamesu to pay Ganesh, Shibuji, Sangi, Gajet Tamesu, Karasumbe, Jaga, Jobaman, Tuscanga, Simje. Sangi with the Simje. What to choose of this in tar sankyeba di simjeba dundu sankyeba yinsa tat simjeba digi duya mishu gongshi mebre oti yinsa tene simjeba chigi pendo chigi duna ane sangye tuki yari ane simjeba neba jina ane sangye tuki mebre oti yinsa
So therefore, it is said that, in fact, there is no way to please Buddhas without pleasing sentient beings. That the way to venerate Buddhas, the way to make offerings to the Buddhas is basically by pleasing sentient beings, by giving rise to well-being and happiness in sentient beings. And the reason for that is, if you look at the story of an enlightened person, from the time when that enlightened person generates bodhicitta, through to engaging in many practices, culminating in the state of enlightenment. At all of these times, the enlightened person's sole purpose is to benefit other sentient beings. The initial generation of bodhicitta is basically to benefit other sentient beings. And in the middle, all the practices that the bodhisattva engages in are all dedicated towards benefiting of sentient beings. And ultimately, when the state of enlightenment is achieved, the very result of enlightenment is again for the benefit of sentient beings. So therefore, that's the reason why if we want to please Buddhas, the only way is by pleasing sentient beings. So Nagarjuna, in his discourse of wish-fulfilling jewel, he compares sentient beings to wish-fulfilling cow. He compares sentient beings to Buddhas and divine beings. He also compares sentient beings to lamas or gurus. And he says that in fact there is no difference between sentient beings and these things that he mentions. And also in Shantideva's compendium of teachings, Labdhu, he mentions again that because sentient beings are like wish-fulfilling cow, because sentient beings are like precious vase, because sentient beings are like Buddhas, and because sentient beings are like gurus or teachers or lamas, that we should venerate and we should please sentient beings because of that.
Kunjo sunda tudamla lama lamda duana titu ngai 하던 디투부디 운동승제 두동거 하지 아마지 로아리나 디투나이 하던 조인 시다도 숨었어.
And Adisha also taught regularly that that for him the three jewels and then his meditational deity and his guru and sentient beings in the six realms are all equally important to him, that they're all his own guru deity.
diné 기신라를 담배 로종 지게네가 다니 나심제 탐제가 이신을 걸려라 전조 두개 상가 있다 두제 만든 거 쇼스 어디는 마비 지제 강가 어디 그래서
And also, as you know, Geshe-la Tangpa in his 8 verses on mind training again compares sentient beings to wish-fulfilling jewel, and when he prays that may I be able to look at sentient beings as more precious, in fact, than wish-fulfilling jewels.
어디 다디 인상 다디 두수 젠베 그만에 디네다 그래서 장민이지 공부양 유심제를 수를 제가 진지 개발지 해야지 진진주 두스다 디지 이번 어디지? 되네. 맛이 진지 숨 공부하면 됐다. 되네 라기 타고도 승제 탐제서 미네. 라기 루유도 라신이가 강제번지 강이여로 돌으면 따바나 라제번지 신여로 도엘로 나나 흉흉이 예라 제치디다 상다 라제버 수네 신여로 돌미리디스 라신이가 대화되지 동해면도 봐 준비처럼 다디 되나 라제 제번지 신도 신제번지 그들이 스타트네 그래서 디 라마추발지와라니 진지구로 많은 진지 그래서
이렇게 높여주고
상태 원대변한 신스 그래서
너무 마주 좋아하는
만주 들었더니 그래서 때려 나야 조심해보니 다드신을 키워이미시 동네 참모자면 되지 때려 나야 조심해보니 다드신을 키워이미시 이렇게 다신념직이 이 근데 다신념직군에 쓰면 규주디 다신념 봤어야 돼 다신념 봤다 라진지 괜고도 많이 삼바 신진지 그 인데 것도 많이 삼바 다시 제와 네 동네 공부스진 어디 사제시 있는 나이나 자리 디나네 어디 단데 디세야 되지 동네 통무자면 되지 때라 나면 초심해보니 다들 시한테 다들 라진지 디치나 다인들 라진지로 난 기도도나 라지버스 셰여도 미리티스 아니 라테원데 번나시 신기에 되어지지 다 등에 참에 있자 민도 번나시 시야 등에 민도 버리스 그래서 그래 등에 참부장이 민도지 대란하면 조심 매번에 다다 향이 잡아 있는 시에서 어디 상로 당고
So then after meditating on the first three, which is recognizing all sentient beings as one's mothers, remembering their kindness, and then 당분이 이런 것도 나오고 쏜 것도 나오고 말씨 진쏜 것도 나오고
진수는 다
진소인 것도 나오고.
그래
So by first
야만 진수 말다
계속 말하시다.
진지
So first by meditating on the first two of seeing all sentient beings as mothers and then remembering their kindness, then we engage in the actual practice of this tradition, which is the altruistic intention to give rise to bodhicitta through equalizing and exchanging oneself with others. So after the practice of remembering the kindness of mother sentient beings, then, as it says in the text, then visualize all sentient beings surrounding yourself, and we should analyze and think this way. Of the two, that is self and others, which do I cherish in my mind? Which do I neglect? So if we caution this to ourselves by visualizing sentient beings surrounding ourselves, then we will produce a natural tendency to cherish ourselves and neglect others. And then at that time, then this is how we should meditate. Is it correct to cherish myself and then neglect others? Because we are the same in wanting happiness and not wanting suffering. Therefore, I must cherish others as I cherish myself. For if someone cherishes me, I'm pleased. Likewise, if I cherish others, they will be pleased as well. So this basically section refers to the practice of equalizing oneself and others. And in the Lama Choba or Guru Puja, there is a verse that is for this particular practice of equalizing oneself and others, where this is that in that one does not want even the smallest of suffering, and that one is never contented by happiness. In this, there is no difference between oneself and others. So there's this verse in Lama Choba. This is basically for this particular practice of equalizing oneself and others.
다드네 야 주된지래 아니 가르스그래 신게랑 제버스나 가와 신도 랑기잖아 신제버스나 가와 유이체스 다지 신요 돈이 랑제버스 소리야바 제버스 소리게 제대로 그때와도 지버리 두는데 지버리 시체 야 랑제버스나 그래서 신제버스나 그래서 랑제버스나 시동아 신도 신제버는 그디 랑 신게 랑제버스는 랑 가와지기도 가스 랑기장 신제버스는 신가로 주그리스
So the first reason that we use to equalize oneself with others is by using this reason that there is no difference between oneself and others, in that we all cherish happiness and we do not want suffering. The second is, as it is mentioned in the text, by contemplating that if I cherish others, if somebody cherishes me, I'm pleased. Likewise, if I cherish others, they will be pleased as well. So this is the second reason.
야, 셴야. 라, 아니, 수수 저번지 제벌은 되네. 그 통만내버네. 다대봐도 라 제벌 송에 라신이 된 가에 못 버리스. 라 제벌 송에 저 통만내는 다대봐도 라 제벌 송에 아니 지 주주주가 지 제발 되네 과태만만에 라제로 순신 열도 신기 때 맞주버리스 맞주버양 매번에 라제로 순신 라신기 때 가야 맞주 마세스 준나소나스 라제로 순에 그 탐을 만드네 다대바도 라제로 순을 이렇게 또 가야 준나소나스 동네 나도 신경을 두스 예를 때는 동네 나도 신경을 두어서 내날 라제번 집에 콜와던 예순기 동네 그거 군기네 수줄배 두배 라진지 마이게바 메게바다 게바 남포지 어디지 어디 라제번 집에
So then this third set of reasoning is actually based on the disadvantages of engaging in self-cherishing thoughts. By reflecting on various reasons as to why it is disadvantageous to engage in self-cherishing. So in the text it says, furthermore, wanting to make everything marvelous for myself, I've cherished myself from beginningless time. Thereby, as a result, besides not accomplishing my own or others' welfare, I've experienced a variety of sufferings. So therefore, it is, even though I've engaged in self-cherishing, instead of giving rise to well-being happiness, it has brought about a lot of sufferings. Therefore, self-cherishing is the source of all troubles, such as the misery of certain existence and the bad transmigrations. Thus, I will not produce the self-cherishing which has not been produced, and will abandon that which has been produced.
얘네 라마 주변에다 라니 제벌은 좀 중내 민주 동이 기도네 얘네들 군도 숨지 단지 좀 진행을 다디 단진지기 변했다야 되거든 집도스다 비주제버리스 장
So, for this particular purpose of reflecting on the disadvantages of self-cherishing within the Lama Choba or Guru Puja, there is again a verse where it says, this chronic disease of self-cherishing, by seeing this as the cause of sufferings that I do not desire, may I be able to eliminate this self-grasping, which is the great demon. This great demon of self-grasping, may I be able to destroy it. So that verse is basically to reflect on the disadvantages of self-cherishing.
되나? 라제벌은 진반니 코아당에 송기 등에 라수베 그거뿐 기내수 두베 라진지 마이게벌 미게벌 동아치 자다디 친이지 다 현재벌은 진반니 연대 탐지 중에수 두베 현진지 마이게벌 사도 미게벌 마이게벌 사도 게벌다 기신은 고네 공비도 자우
So then the next is reflecting on the advantages or positive qualities of cherishing others. So this is in the text it says, cherishing others is the source of all good qualities. Therefore, I will develop newly the cherishing of others that have not produced yet, and increase from higher to higher that I produce already. Please bless me, Lama Didi, to be able to do that.
타입의 대중 보통네 로아 대다다기 잘랑 장선 로아 강글로 강기 잘랑 위에 손에 제번지 신 제번지에 블루티베 소리 장 제번지 인스 손에 제번지 맞징기로 스타디 어두 시트 베지주 다 신진지 인데 템베 진주리.
So again, in the Guru Puja, there's a verse that is to reflect on the advantages of cherishing of others, where it goes something like this: that the cherishing of all mother sentient beings is the gateway or the door of giving rise to all infinite qualities, and because of that, even if all sentient beings arise as one's own enemies, may I be able to cherish them even more than my own life.
That's the 어디네? 단다디 다신 제와 생겼디. 다 남아 주변 알잖아. 다신 제와디. 만지 디시 다시 주변에. 나니 진지 그거 끊기고 많은 진지인데 그시 디시 다시 주변에 졸라스. 다 다시 제와 뭐인가. 다시 제와 뭐디 그래서는 제야디 라진지다 신진진이부터 제야디. 제상 우먼도 라제브라 송디여바 신야와도 봤다 신 라이어도 신제브라 송스 아제사라니 진지 그거 건축 많은 진지인데 디지 다시 제외는 줄라 양냉인 거 주가 진결로 쓰다 다시 저왕을 디시
So then, after these, then we come to the actual practice of exchanging self with others. So first is equalizing oneself with others, so these different reasonings. And then the next practice is the actual practice of exchanging oneself with others. So exchanging here, there's no way we can exchange oneself with others in that literal sense. But what is meant here is that we have to replace or exchange our self-cherishing with the cherishing of others. So that is what is the exchange that is taking place. That generally, we engage in self-cherishing, and in that place we should engage in, or we should exchange that or replace that with cherishing of other sentient beings. So therefore, in the Guru Puja context, again there is one verse that is for the actual practice of exchanging practice, exchanging oneself with others, where it says that self-cherishing is since self-cherishing is the source of all miseries, and cherishing of others is the source of all good qualities, may I be able to exchange myself with others.
도나 지바란데 도나 지바란 주권에서 통화신 것이 제가 인쇄할 때 되는 연구도가 다시 재산 도나 지바란 주권은 제 지바는 안내랑 굉장히 제대로 인사 단답부터 그래서 거나 두가디 시행 라이어도 시행제로 소환해서는 산지기 살을 주어야지 도나 지바랑 주권한테 통화신도 벌써 저희 견도인도 이것도 다시 인연진도 진기로 세야 돼 연구를 단단데
So then we continue to engage in the contemplation pertaining to exchanging oneself with others, where it says, in brief, the king of subduers neglected himself and cherished others. He is a perfect manifest Buddha because he worked only for the welfare of others. If I also had done that, I would have become a Buddha a long time ago, but I did not do it, and therefore I've wandered in single existence up until now. Currently, once self-cherishing dwells within myself, I cannot really produce the cherishing of others. Even the cherishing of others which I have been able to produce, I cannot sustain continuously. Therefore, not generating for even a moment the mind that cherishes myself and neglect others, I will neglect myself and cherish others. Then I will have taken upon myself, upon my mind, all sufferings and miseries of others. By giving others all my happiness and virtue, I will free all sentient beings from suffering and provide them with perfect happiness. So, again, this contemplation has a verse in Guru Puja where in the verse says, in short, children, meaning ordinary people, children, because of engaging in self-cherishing others, children have engaged in self-cherishing of oneself, and the perfect Buddhas have engaged in the self-cherishing of others. And by knowing the difference in terms of their qualities and realizations, may I be able to bless me so that I be able to engage in the practice of exchanging myself with others. So therefore, that corresponds to the meditation that is described here. So, the generation of bodhicitta through the practice of equalizing and exchanging oneself with others is therefore, in this tradition, as it is described here, done through 5 stages, culminating in the generation of bodhicitta. So the first stage is it's the practice of equalizing oneself with others. So equalizing oneself with others. The second practice is contemplation or meditation on the disadvantages of cherishing of oneself or self-cherishing. And then the third practice is meditation on the advantages of cherishing of others. Then the fourth is the actual exchanging of oneself with others. And then the fifth is to enhance our ability to exchange oneself with others. In other words, like replacing self-cherishing with self-cherishing of others. The enhancement practice is the practice of Tonglen or giving and taking practice. So this is mentioned here. So the Tonglen practice here mentioned in the text, when it says, "Then I will take upon myself, upon my own mind, all sufferings and miseries of others. By giving others all my happiness and virtue, I will free sentient beings from suffering and provide them with perfect happiness." So this is the Tonglen or giving and taking practice. And so then that culminates in the actual generation of bodhicitta, where it says, "Furthermore, now I do not have the ability to do this." Who does have this ability? A completely perfect Buddha. "Therefore I will attain the high state of completely perfect Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings, my mothers. Bless me to be able to do that." So then that's culminates in the actual generation of bodhicitta. So then again in Lama Choba or Guru Puja there is a verse that corresponds to the practice of Tonglen or giving taking, and that goes something like this: that therefore, O venerable teachers, may I be able to bear suffering and the causes of suffering of all sentient beings, and through my dedication and giving of all happiness and virtue and benefit and the causes of happiness to all other sentient beings, bless me so that all sentient beings have well-being and happiness." So that verse is actually the actual practice of giving and taking of Tonglen.
담보 추일렌트네 파다 그래서는 내가 제 신도 대화 파당시에 동네들이 대화 친구 주인공이 그런 길을 동네 여러 동네 열심히 내가 대화 파당에 친구 주인공이 말봐 간에 친구 간에 세를 지지는 세디 동네 막 세매버리면 뒤도 세지나 네 세디 좋아시라야 말봐 근데 매번 내가 세를 지지 대화 지지는 어디 친구를 준비해봐 어디 이상 담보 동네 추이네 내파 대화 파당에 들이 그래서 동네는 준비 잠깐 일을 하고 있으면 이거는 동세 당일 두고 한데 대화 대기파 다진 냠수는 좀 공부해 되는 파동한테
So then there is the practice of engaging in Tonglen or giving and taking by incorporating this with yoga or breathing. And so as you breathe in, you take upon yourself the suffering of sentient beings. As you breathe out, you give your happiness and well-being dedicated to all sentient beings. And so that is also mentioned in Lama Choba or Guru Puja, where it says, by relying on the yoga or breathing, may I be able to engage in the practice of giving and taking. So, as I mentioned earlier, Tonglen practice is enhancement practice, to enhance one's compassion and to enhance one's loving kindness. So, when you give, that is to enhance your practice of love, because you give well-being and happiness. But when you take upon yourself the suffering, taking is basically enhancement practice for compassion, because compassion is, by definition, the intention to free sentient beings of their sufferings. So therefore, giving and taking are respectively enhancement practice for loving kindness and compassion. So even though in the text, it mentions giving and taking, so giving is referred to as first. But in actual practice, the sequence is reversed, that you first take and then you give. The reason for that is, first of all, if you don't take upon yourself the suffering of other sentient beings, then even so, when the sentient beings are still suffering, if you give benefit, it is not going to be effective, because you can visualize sentient beings having kind of experiencing horrible, terrible suffering. So while they are suffering, whatever you give is not going to be effective. Very much like if somebody has some sort of tremendous pain, if you try to give some food, it's not going to be much benefit to that person. So therefore, in practice, you first take upon yourself the suffering of other sentient beings, and you visualize they are freed from their sufferings. On the basis of that freedom from suffering, then you usually give all your well-being and happiness. So therefore, in practice, taking is done first, followed by giving.
단지 내 단지 공부를 제세기 저기 지 단지 농가야 되겠지 선제 단지 네 가르치고 이시노 공부상부 진주도 저아 하다 라마 신세도수 유전한 거다 신진지 윤대 삼서들의 두수관계 tension, 두수관계 정도. 신진지기 윤대 삼인지 이게 룸되겠지. 루두그 룸되지. 계속 시월라가 룸지. 아니 저 룸지. 는 도롱야리 도롱제 상계기 나대 지지. 내가 지기 간 가르쳐지. 지심제 치기 심제기 때문에 그 상기 주고 가지고 그랬다. 도롱만 돼요. 어떤 상관 윤대 탐지기 시인가스
So earlier, when I
先进的
referred to some quotations from Nagarjuna and Shantideva and so forth, where Nagarjuna and Shantideva compared sentient beings to wish-fulfilling jewels, precious vase, wish-fulfilling cow, lama, deities, and so forth. And also there are other quotations from the sutras where the Buddha said that whatever I have done, it's all for the benefit of sentient beings and so forth. These you can actually bring to actually meditate or enhance your practice on the qualities or benefits of cherishing of other sentient beings.
다 지난도 좋아이베 좋아이시니 좋아지스탄 더리데 샤이니스다.
So maybe we can take one or two questions and at this stage, and then we're going to stop here for today. Questions?
I had a question about when he was talking about contaminated happiness, like that basically the happiness in samsara kind of. I was wondering if he could speak on what uncontaminated happiness is, what's kind of the definition and what is that? What would that? I can't even imagine what that would be like. Is that the only thing I can think of? Is maybe it's some kind of really profound contentment or something? Where I don't know. What is that? What's that all about?
살찌게 되거든 상맥이 되어서 송송
야가리.
상맥 되었을 때꼭 간대주면 된다고 썸먹고 당통 거도 근데 간대질을 쓰고 그랬어 근데 몇번 침고 싶고 시작한다 근데 상맥 되었을 때
말이스. 삼릭 들어왔을 때 이게 탑에 보관투서는 아좀더 구슬한다. 대화디 전에 나랑도 단대디 대화디 대화니 게 중에 야 중에디 야 대화니 이제 아 아좀더 보관투서는 대화디 냠야 윤도 줘야 매봐. 네. 그래서 그래. 삼릭 들어왔을 때 명문바다 만대에 되었으니 나도 아는 명문배 명문바다 대회 되었지 너지 유사 명문배 온기 디지인데 아니고 명문배 시험도 도인데 되네 되었기 때문에 지쳐게 됐어.
So uncontaminated happiness actually refers to the kind of happiness that you experience when you achieve arhatut or the state of liberation. Because at that stage, whatever the joy, the happiness that you experience is not actually mixed with negative emotions, or is not induced by or influenced by negative emotions. Usually, whatever kind of contaminated happiness that we experience is usually mixed with or produced by negative emotions, so that they are not permanent. Whereas uncontaminated by definition is permanent, joy.